Of course, we never see Piccolo, Yamcha, Tien, or even Chaozu utilize the Kaioken after undergoing training similar to Goku, but what difference would it make in Dragon Ball Z and the Namek arc? Hit the like button and subscribe if you're a fan of old school Dragon Ball videos like this. Now, the website for Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, yes, some time ago, stated that King Kai takes on the training of Yamcha, Tien, Chaozu, and Piccolo using the same techniques that were successful with Goku. It is unknown whether this statement refers to teaching the Z fighters the Kaioken and the Spirit Bomb techniques, or if it's just referring to King Kai's training techniques in general. However, Yamcha does use the technique in Xenoverse, as does Krillin, who trained under King Kai briefly after his death. Krillin also learns the technique from Goku in his What If saga in Supersonic Warriors. However, neither Tien, Chaozu, or Piccolo have ever been shown using the technique in any media. That's pretty much it for officially linking Kaioken to the Z fighters through different continuities, but case in point, I think personally if Piccolo did have access to the Kaioken on planet Namek, he would have damn well stacked it on top of the Nail Fusion buff to help keep up with third form Frieza. That is, if he could have and wasn't at rope's end in terms of his own potential there. It's debated what level of power Piccolo was when arriving on Namek. Somewhere in between Nail and First Form Frieza is always a safe bet, based on the statements and dialogue and how it's interpreted, but no matter where his power was, he was scared of Frieza's 500,000 battle power when sensing it upon arriving, and he did submit to Nail's request without that much of a debate, so we know he wasn't near Frieza's power at all. However, he was extremely confident in requesting to be wished back to take on Frieza. It could have been his burning desire, talking to avenge the Namekians. However, Piccolo was smart to know and would realize he'd just be getting wished back to die again anyway, which makes me believe Piccolo wouldn't waste a wish and definitely wouldn't be that confident unless he had a backup plan, and I think he was counting on his high-end power of the special beam cannon or something to win something to Frieza, even though he knew nothing about Frieza's anatomy and his survivability with wounds. The special beam cannon easily raises his power by ×3, but he was still shaken up on sensing Frieza, maybe more than he did when sensing Raditz's power, which was about the same magnitude of a gap, if we're going with Piccolo's fighting power being around 3 to 4 times less than base form Frieza. I mean, first form Frieza, making it somewhere between 130,000 to 180,000. So let's go with 150,000. Yes, that's a huge leap past Piccolo's Saiyan Saga power in just 6 days of training with King Kai, I know, but this is Dragon Ball sometimes and we have to move fast to keep up with the plot. And if we're going with Piccolo knowing the Kaioken in this What If storyline today, he's going to have to utilize a triple dose at least in order to stand up to Frieza. However, we still have good old Nail, which would be a spectacular upgrade to Piccolo now that he knows Kaioken, and that's what's going to happen here. Piccolo gets nearly a 10 times boost sinking with Nail. Budokai 1 reference, sinking, yep, you got it. Putting him over 1,000,000 battle power, but from here, in his battle with second form Frieza, that would remain the same. I can personally see Piccolo removing the weighted clothes before he even tries Kaioken, and based on Piccolo's shock, learning that Frieza could transform yet again, I still feel that Frieza would hit the third form, as that happened pretty damn quick. This is the battle where I feel it would be make or break. Whether events stay exactly the same because of Frieza's dominance, or Piccolo can prevail with the Kaioken. If Piccolo had Kaioken, there's no doubt he would resort to it, especially here when he's bested in power and speed. The problem we have is how much Kaioken can Piccolo handle at this point. He's only been trained with King Kai for 6 days, and although it got a huge plot power up, the experience with Kaioken is still rookie levels. Where Goku had way more time to get to grips with a double Kaioken, I feel anything from 1.1 to 2 times would be suitable for Piccolo's current experience, with a 3 times being the absolute desperation level that would really hurt himself. I said 1.1 times because Kaioken doesn't have to go straight to ×2 or go up in single digits. King Kai just warned Goku about that double power being the limit for the sake of his own health. There's still power levels between base form and ×2, whether it's 25% stronger, 50% stronger. Kaioken can do that. Anyway, Piccolo would be around 2 million here on Namek, using that Kaioken ×2, but what's third form Frieza's power level? We know Frieza's 100% power is 120 million, so 1% would be 1.2 million. But that's around second form Frieza, right? Meaning Frieza's power is not strict to his final form, and his final form can still be at 1%, 1.2 million. It's just Frieza was fighting with at least 3% against Vegeta and Goku, so third form Frieza is potentially double second form Frieza, so around 2 million, and approximately 2% of Frieza's maximum capability on Namek. So this fight with Kaioken times 2 Piccolo versus 3rd form Frieza is going to be extremely close, give or take their power levels. Remember, I'm only guessing roughly, they could fluctuate. 3rd form Frieza may not even be 2 million, but I think this will be close and come down to two things: conditioning and time. 3rd form Frieza is far more stable at 2 million than Piccolo is with Kaioken at 2 million. So it really depends on if Piccolo can pull off a ×3 and really hurt Frieza enough to get a deciding blow on him when he's down. Truth is, Frieza is very durable, so it's risky, but it would be the only way. Frieza would be very quick, and a special beam cannon, even with Kaioken, would be futile, as even if it did hit, Frieza will likely still survive if the shock impact doesn't kill him. However, with help from Gohan and Krillin, and yes, Vegeta, Kaioken times 3 Piccolo, or even Kaioken 2.5, may be enough to overwhelm 3rd form Frieza. Gohan did show some force in attacking 3rd form Frieza, so with Piccolo's Kaioken power, it may give them all an edge. Now from here, if Frieza is still dominant, he will most likely go to final form, but if Piccolo is winning, then I can see Piccolo interfering in the final transformation this time because he's confident he has the strength to take on Frieza and wouldn't let him transform again. Unlike in the original story, he was battered, bruised, and had no hope against Frieza. He was scared to death. It caused him to retreat and wait for Krillin to blast Vegeta. If the gang could overwhelm 3rd form Frieza, especially with Dende still there to help heal Piccolo, there may be some chance to save Namek before Goku even wakes up. Either way, I can still see Krillin blasting Vegeta just in case, making Vegeta the strongest on the battlefield when he recovers, and if Piccolo is still fighting 3rd form Frieza, Vegeta will no doubt end it this time. Making the situation on Namek very strange if Frieza is killed before going final form. It leaves Vegeta as the strongest right before Goku wakes up. This Vegeta, before his defeat at Frieza's hand, was quite dangerous in the sense that he believed he was a Super Saiyan. He could still look to establish dominance even though Frieza is out of the picture, and he could beat up Piccolo and the others as Vegeta was very unpredictable on Namek. He was only working with them all because Frieza was the bigger threat. However, there were times he showed a soul by saving Gohan against Frieza's death beam, so there may be enough respect from him there to spare them. I can't see him sabotaging Goku's healing pod if Frieza was defeated before Goku woke up. To be honest, Goku was pretty much 90% by that point in the healing pod, so even if Goku got out of there early, he's still likely to hold his ground against Vegeta if they were to battle, but I'll skip that what-if battle between Goku and Vegeta on Namek under these circumstances and focus on that specific story in another video. So let's continue with Piccolo and what possible outcomes this would have in the original Dragon Ball Z arcs. It's hard not making these what-ifs simply fanfiction the longer they go on because there are so many factors at play and could change everything, but in the original story, if Piccolo did have the Kaioken and decided to pull it out of the bag at any time, let's see how it would fare in the original Z battles. When Frieza and King Cold arrived on Earth, I believe he would have trained more with the Kaioken in that 1 to 2 years after Namek to access potentially a Kaioken times 10, but this would barely help against a 50% Frieza. When it comes to preparing for the androids, he would absolutely squash Dr. Gero and Android 19 with a ×10 multiplier on top of his already hardened level. He did train with Super Saiyan Goku for 3 years. It would be very interesting how he fares against 17 and 18 in the mountains with the help of Vegeta and Trunks. Of course, Super Saiyan Vegeta was the strongest amongst them, but even Vegeta had respect for Piccolo's power against Dr. Gero. So Kaioken may close a decent gap to help out, but I still think 17 and 18 working together would thrash all of them with the stamina advantage on top. The Z fighters didn't have enough deadly force to wipe out the 2 androids there and then. When it comes to Imperfect Cell, the Kaioken wouldn't have made that much of a difference because Cell escaped anyway even though Piccolo was stronger. But the fight against Android 17 would be much different. His ×10 power would cause serious harm to 17 to the point of incapacitating 17 altogether, preventing Cell from reaching his second form. It depends if Android 16 steps in, but I feel like Android 16 and the stronger Imperfect Cell would be a true test for Kaioken ×10 Piccolo. Unless Piccolo with the Kami fusion has a strong enough body to handle a ×20, Piccolo may indeed dish out some hurting bombs and end the Cell saga right there, with Android 16 backing down due to Cell being the true threat. Even if Piccolo doesn't succeed against Imperfect Cell, and the same events pan out, Piccolo's Kaioken ×20 could help with the Cell Juniors, especially in the anime version. Piccolo was the MVP of the Cell Junior battle, but I still don't think it would be enough overall, as conditioning and energy were in the Cell Junior's favour. An interesting change might be during the Gohan Cell beam struggle, where Piccolo could use a special beam cannon with the Kaioken ×20 amp to distract Cell way more, taking him off his game and helping Gohan win earlier. That's a possibility depending on how strong Kaioken ×20 Piccolo is. But But as for the Buu arc, a times 20 amp on Piccolo would make zero difference throughout the whole arc, and I still think he would get stone spat on him by Dabura. Then he just gets chopsticked in Battle of Gods by Beerus, but might get a good victory over Frost in the Universe 6 battle thanks to the Kaioken amp. And that's how far I'll go, because like I said, there are so many factors at play. Basically, Kaioken for Piccolo would be more effective earlier in the story, as times 20 buffs during Dragon Ball Super and GT are almost pointless when it comes to the power jumps that take place in both shows, but still, a fun turn of events either way. I haven't really talked about Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien much in terms of how it would benefit them. The only one I can see it would make a huge difference with is on Tien, especially if he combined it with the Neo Tri-Beam. Based on the power amp the Tri-Beam already gave Tien against Cell and Boo-Tanks' blast, a Kaioken Tri-Beam would probably blast the entire Z villain cast all the way to New Namek. But then Tien will likely die from using too much life force in one go, sacrificing his life like the role model that he is.